Hello, everybody. This is Skip Alzheimer. Welcome to the AV Geeks Lunchtime Streaming Show. Again, I'm pre recorded because I am in the mountains of Virginia and Kentucky. I'm working with Apple Shop today. I'm recording it the night before, so I worked on Sunday, so I think that today is Tuesday, but it's really Monday night. So my brain is like, what day is it? But yeah, we worked all day today setting up workstations for video digitizing, for cleaning media where there's a lot of mud, dirt, and mold. We worked with their laser graphics system, which was great. And we did, what else? Video workstation stuff. Yeah, a variety of different things. So it was a lot of great work today. Anyways, so when you're watching this, it will be Tuesday the 13th. Because I just really didn't know what day it was. Yeah, I've got some pre-recorded films. These are from the Prelinger archive, where they've been uploading and digitizing stuff, and we've been helping with that process. We're going to start off with New Wrinkle, which I think is about tire safety, or driver safety related to tires. We're going to watch a young American film, Sewing Simple Seams. Then we're going to watch, it's been a while since we watched a film about steel, Pageant in Steel. Then The Last Word, which is a Jam Handy film about Chevrolet. Then, what else are we going to watch? V-Men, which is about people that work at Westinghouse. And I think it's related to vitamins. Then finally, we are going to watch MT Airless Spray Buffering, or wait, let me try that again. MT Airless Spray Buffing System, which is about some sort of industrial process where they buff a variety of different things. There's some glorious color footage in here. So there's a lot of manufacturing stuff that's going to show up in this one, which of course we love. And what I love is when you guys hit the thumbs up. I love when you comment. And so the plan is you're watching this Tuesday. Wednesday is when I drive back, so I'll pre-record that day. And maybe I'll get to share some of the stuff that we digitized at Apple Shop. They have some really great USDA films that I want to share. We transferred some today, and I was like, this is nuts. I want to show this on my show. So I have to get permission for that. But, yeah. Anyways, watch films, talk about them, hit the thumbs up, donate if you wish, and we will see you on Wednesday. And then I will see you live on Thursday. It will be very exciting. All right, guys. I miss you in person, but we will see each other soon. Take care.
Dan obeyed all the rules and regulations. He kept his mind on what he was doing. Said it was better to be safe than sorry. Dan paid special attention to the mechanical condition of his car, kept it greased and oiled, and took it in for a checkup regularly. And yet, a thing like this could happen to him. How about you? A blowout is no respecter of persons, you know. Every day, your newspapers carry pictures of accidents, bad accidents, many of them fatal, and many of them result from blowouts. In fact, Accident figures taken from reports from 30 states show that an accident resulting from a blowout or a puncture of a tire is twice as likely to result in death as an accident arising from any other cause. Why is a blowout so dangerous? Let's see what happens when a tire suddenly goes flat. First, one who has had a flat while driving. Then, one side or bead of the tire slips down into the center channel of the rim. When this happens, the tire either comes half off or it jumps crosswise of the rim and throws the car out of control. That's why people began to wonder if it wasn't possible to prevent such accidents. They turned to a study of the wheel itself for a possible answer. Why does the tire slip off the wheel? Because there is nothing to prevent it. Section of one side of the rim, it even slants somewhat toward the center. Maybe if it was flat, a wrinkle to raise the inside portion of the land, blowout accidents could be prevented. So they built a machine to put the grooves in a wheel. A machine that would roll a channel into the flat lands to hold the bead firmly in place. It had to be a precision machine, but at the same time it had to be strongly built to do the job of squeezing the cold steel into shape. They put the grooves on several wheels, then took them out to a racetrack and tested them on various cars and at various speeds. The first thing they noticed was that a car equipped with these wheels seemed to handle more easily, both on a straight stretch and on a curve. Apparently, the tires seated themselves more firmly on the grooved wheels. Mile after mile they rolled around, and they even let most of the air out of the tires to see whether or not they would stay on the wheels. They did, with never a swerve or a shimmy. Then the supreme test, to blow out a tire with a dynamite cap while the car was moving at good speed. There had been widespread interest in these tests. Here, safety officials pronounced the results amazing, and here is what they saw. Roaring down the track at 60 miles an hour, the driver pushes a button that explodes a dynamite cap on the tire. The tire blows out, and the car comes to a quick, smooth stop. No weaving, no careening from side to side. Yes, the tire is flat, all right, but those grooves have held it fast to the rim. Time after time, the same tests. The tire exploded with a dynamite cap at high speeds, and yet even on a curve, where ordinarily a blowout means an accident, the tire seemed glued to the rim. The car remained under control, gliding to a smooth stop. Now let's stop the action so we can see what's happening. Here, the dynamite cap has just exploded. Notice the spurt of smoke and dust resulting from the detonation. The explosion has torn a hole in the sidewall of the tire, a hole large enough to duplicate the effect of a blowout. A few feet and a fraction of a second later, the tire has lost a good portion of its air. This is the point at which a blowout on a standard wheel throws the car completely out of the driver's control. Note, however, that this driver has taken his hands completely off the steering wheel. He trusts those little wrinkles on that wheel. Note, too, the official observer seated beside him to make certain that the test is authentic. Another few feet, and the tire is completely flat, but it's still firmly on the wheel and shows no sign of loosening under the terrific pounding it is taking. The driver holds one hand lightly on the steering wheel to counteract the natural drag that tends to pull the car toward its low side. And so, the car is brought to a safe, smooth stop. The experts could scarcely believe their eyes that regular stock cars could behave in such a manner. They inspected the cars thoroughly to make certain they had not been specially rigged. They had to be sure, for here was something new under the sun, a simple way to save thousands of lives. Those little grooves could prevent accidents arising from a blowout. And the beauty of it is, the grooves can be put in any wheels at small cost and without even scratching the paint. It's simply a matter of driving into a filling station or garage that is equipped with one of these machines. There, the wheels are removed, the tires taken off, then each wheel is put on the machine by a technician. As the wheel rolls around, heavy precision rollers squeeze the grooves into the flat land, the danger spot in any wheel. The operator checks the diameter carefully with calipers as the work nears completion. Thus, for an hour's time and a few dollars, this. Here we see the miracle wheel in slow motion. Note the way the tire sticks to the rim. Yes, with miracle wheels, to have his car under control. And when he takes his family out for a Sunday drive, he knows that he has provided an extra bit of insurance for the safety of himself, his family, and his fellow man. And all because...
Simple seams are the basis of all good sewing. Different seams are used according to the type of garment and the material used. Plain seam, edges pinked. Pinking is one of the simplest and most commonly used finishes for firm wool, silk, and cotton fabrics. The first step in making the simple seam is to place the right sides of the two pieces of material together. Be sure both edges are even before pinning. Pins are placed at right angles to the edges. This makes it possible to baste over them without danger of pricking your fingers on the pins. Measure the seam width, allowing 3/8 to 1/2 inch. Then baste the seam. A single thread should always be used in basting. The knot is placed a little to one side of the line of stitching to prevent the machine needle from passing through it. Be sure the work is kept flat. Do not crush it as you baste. Stitching on the machine is done using the inside edge of the presser foot as a guide. It should follow beside the basting in a straight line. After stitching, remove the basting. Keep the work smooth and flat to avoid wrinkling and tearing holes in the material. Pink the seam edges together with pinking shears, cutting away just as little of the material as possible. Now the pinked edge seam is ready for pressing. Press the edges together on the wrong side of the material. Then turn it over and press on the right side, making sure that there are no folds on the right side. A more common practice is to press the edges open. The choice is determined by the type and thickness of material, location of the seam in the garment, or by individual preference. Plain seam, edges overcast. Overcast edges are necessary on materials which ravel readily, such as woolens and other loosely woven fabrics. Again, the simple seam is made by placing the right sides of the material together, keeping the edges even and stitching in a straight line along the basting. The seam is pressed open as before. An electric steam iron may be used to advantage in pressing woolens of all types. Overcast each edge separately, working from left to right. Be careful not to pull the thread too tight, as the seam will gather and the edges roll under. Finish press the seam on both the right and wrong sides. After pressing, the seam should lie flat and smooth. Edges may be overcast together, particularly on armholes, yokes, or other points of design where the seam edges naturally fall together. Plain seam, edges stitched. The stitched edge is a popular seam finish for silk, rayon, or dress weight woolens. It is used extensively in fine ready-to-wear. First, press a simple seam open. Press both sides as usual. Then turn under about 1/8 of an inch of each edge and crease with the fingers. After finger pressing, stitch on the machine close to the folded edge, making sure that the body of the material is pushed to one side, where it won't interfere with stitching the seam. Finish press the seam on both the wrong and right sides. Careful pressing is the finishing touch to good tailoring. Plain seam, edges bound. Seam tape or silk bias is used on seams in tailored garments, especially unlined coats and jackets. Baste the folded tape to the raw edge of the seam. The tape is folded with one side slightly wider than the other. The wide side of the tape should be placed on the underneath side of the seam to ensure catching it when stitching on the machine. Puckering may result if the tape is not applied correctly. Tape should be kept smooth but not drawn tightly over the seam. After basting, the tape is stitched on the machine with the top side up. Stitch along the side of the basting thread. This simplifies removing the basting. Remove the bastings as before, keeping the material smooth and flat. Finish press the seam on both sides. Either a regular electric iron or an electric steam iron may be used on woolen fabrics. When a regular iron is used, a dampened pressing cloth must be placed over the material to avoid shining or scorching. Edges are often bound together to avoid bulkiness around armholes, yokes, and seams at the waistline. With the edges together, baste the tape to the edges of the seam. Stitch on the edge of the tape with the narrow side up. Clip the threads and remove the bastings before pressing. Finish press on the wrong side using a pressing cloth. Plain seam, catch-stitched. The catch-stitched seam is used on heavy materials where seams tend to roll and will not stay pressed flat to the garment. In making the catch stitch, catch the needle in a few threads of fabric just beyond the seam, and then in the seam. Point the needle to your left as you progress to the right. The stitches should not show on the right side of the material. Press carefully on both sides so that the seam will not show on the right side. Plain seam, top stitched. Top stitching is used to strengthen seams and for decorative and design purposes. First, pink the edges of a plain seam. Then open the material and finger press. Stitch the desired width from the fold using the presser foot as a guide. And so, your ability to make well-tailored clothes with that finished, professional appearance, depends upon how well you master one of the most important fundamentals of sewing, the simple seam.
Let's keep it clear in front of camera 2 this time.
Well, this rehearsal ought to do it, don't you think?
That kind of luck at all.
Are you on your starting marks, Don?
I think so. It's nearly gone.
All right, everybody. We'll take it from the beginning. This is a dress rehearsal. Don, take your opening a little slower. We want our television audience to know that we're in the Coliseum and what this exposition is all about. Sheet steel.
Right, Bill.
We'll take it straight through, film included. From the beginning. Music.
Good evening, and welcome to the fabulous Coliseum, Columbus Circle, New York, and to America's first annual Pageant of Steel. This actually is an exposition about you, because much of your life, and what's good in it, depends on steel. No matter who you are, or what your living is, for all of us, steel is everything. And the kind of steel every one of us meets every day is this. Sheet steel. And I mean everyone. Let's say you're a gardener, all right? Let's talk to one right over here. I know a Puritan doesn't believe in chattering when there's work.
If any would not work, neither should he eat. Thessalonians 3:10.
But I did want to ask you about these tools.
Oh, there's a man with an eye for fine tools.
Iron, aren't they?
Iron and from England. But I must confess my muscles ache after a day with them.
I can believe that. Look how thick the iron is.
Well, iron is iron. Must be thick to be strong.
What are you doing with that scythe?
Sharpening it, of course.
With a hammer?
Well, if it's not too dull, I use a stone. This is faster, though. If only wrought iron had some temper.
How'd you like some new tools with muscles of their own and real temper?
I'd like tea without the tax, too.
Come over here. Watch this. I'll show you how to cut grass or hay easy as walking.
It's too easy. Must be sinful.
It's no sin to save your youth. Why wear yourself out?
Seems easy enough for a child. What is this metal?
Sheet steel.
Steel? But steel is for swords and clock springs. It's too fine to use.
Not today. In the 20th century, steel is for everything. This is sheet steel. So is this. And this.
Gardeners have all the best of it these days.
Gardeners and everybody else. Take a look at this.
What might this be?
We call it an outdoor living room.
You don't live out of doors.
As much as we can. We have furniture to make it comfortable and beautiful. And yet take the weather. This is sheet steel.
I disapprove. But this has great comfort. Must be a sin. Is this a fireplace?
Well, not exactly a fireplace. We call it a grill. You can move it wherever you need it.
The steel in this is thicker than the iron in my shovel.
Of course, we can make steel any thickness we like for any job. How'd you like to see some real husky uses for sheet steel? Here's a grown-up set of garden tools. Only with this equipment, a couple of men can cultivate a garden of hundreds of acres.
Our colony had these tools.
That would have been putting the cart before the horse by 300 years. Before we could get sheet steel in the quantities we need, we had to invent the continuous mill, for instance.
This is all gibberish to my ears.
Of course, this is strictly 20th century. You'd find the mill in a place like this. It's one of the great plants of Bethlehem Steel Company. There was a time when we said steel mill, we thought only of rails and big steel beams. But today at Bethlehem, more than half the iron ore out in the yards goes into products for everyday living. Steelmaking has changed our lives in just 2 generations. Although it's one of our oldest crafts, iron has always been smelted the same way, with limestone and fuel. These days, the fuel is coke. The beginning is at the blast furnace, where oxygen and earthy materials are separated from the iron. Here is the hot blood of industry. This is the basic substance of nearly every durable product we want and buy: iron. But the iron is only iron. It still carries elements that must be eliminated or brought into new balance in the open hearth furnace. Electronics measure and control this inferno automatically, and somehow a miracle happens. Now, it is steel. But But this is merely the start. Steel making goes on, even in the ladle and the mold. The mysteries continue in the red heart of the steel, too hot to approach, but still carefully controlled by the metallurgist. Now the steel begins to cool and solidify. The ingot is formed. Then, in an inferno, the steel is heated again, not just to any temperature, but to a right degree of brilliant incandescence. This ingot is ready to be rolled. Here, with the force of giants, the ingot is lengthened into a slab. As it is compacted, the steel grains are refined to meet all the trials no other material can take so well. The pounding, pulling, the wear that steel shrugs off every day. By now, the surfaces have been inspected and prepared, and each group of slabs has its own metallurgical pedigree. Their movement is scheduled as tight as a passenger train and accounted for at every station. Item 4, product account 5640. Ordered weight 360,000 pounds. Customer, a steel drum manufacturer. So this slab will be steel drums. The next may be an automobile frame or refrigerator or water tank.
Oh, John, it's beautiful.
Beautiful? I should say it is. Why, Mary, this is positively the last word. Electric headlamps? Foot accelerator? Speedometer? Sliding gear transmission?
Last word, eh? Well, we suppose that Chevrolet was the last word in 1913. Had a lot of modern features, too. Counterbalanced crankshaft, helical timing gears, and a lot of other things that other cars didn't have. But a lot of research was still going on under the hood, and lots of on-the-spot engineering. No luck, huh? Well, it isn't your battery. You haven't any. In fact, you won't have the ignition system that goes with the storage battery until 1914. The electric self-starter will be along in 1915. And about 1918, just 5 years from now, we'll have enclosed auto bodies. Any kind of weather will be driving weather then.
Well, Mary, what do you think of our 1925 Chevrolet?
Oh, John, it's beautiful.
Beautiful. Why, Mary, this Chevrolet is absolutely the last word.
Well, for 1925, it was. Of course, there's no knee action or independent suspension, no four-wheel brakes. But balloon tires, they'll be along any minute now. The boys have been working on those for a long while. No safety plate glass yet either. Can't please them, son. Give them a nice, shiny black finish, and right away they want something to match their dress. Well, okay. This year, thanks to Duco Finishes, she can have her choice of body colors. But take it from the boys, what you have now won't be a patch on what you'll be able to have in the years to come.
beauty, isn't she?
Beauty, my John, is simply the last word.
The last word. Again? Now you've got her doing it.
You mean there's something better after this?
What do you think?
But tip-tomatic clutch, no draft ventilation, or a high-poid rear axle? What next?
Take the next right turn. Then you'll see.
Will you sign the guest register, please?
Mr. and Mrs. Public. Well now, no wonder you people haven't aged a bit since 1913. And that explains your habit of using that expression, the last word. We all do it, even though to the engineers of Chevrolet and General Motors, to the researchers and designers, there is no such thing as the last word. In Chevrolet, the nearest thing to the last word is more. Building quality transportation for the American public means constantly building into each yearly model more performance, more comfort, more safety, more economy, more durability, more beauty. In the experimental laboratories of Chevrolet, engineers take the latest model from the assembly lines, run it through grueling tests, then strip it down, study it, for ways to improve it. More than 15,000 parts in today's motor car, and each one is tested and probed so that tomorrow's motor car may have greater safety in the body, more comfortable seats, an even smoother ride, and greater performance with economy. In Chevrolet, backed by the largest engineering, design, and research facilities in the world, a theory is a long way from a proven fact. Countless drawings are made, discussed, and discarded. From the best, from the ideas that show the most promise of improvement, exact working models are made. And then working parts for testing. In a few days or weeks, the experimental engineers heap more abuse on car and truck parts than a driver could inflict in a lifetime. But passing the laboratory torture tests doesn't mean that a part is ready for production. Here are 1,268 acres of tests, the largest and finest proving and testing facilities in the world, the General Motors Proving Ground. Before it goes into production, every Chevrolet part of every Chevrolet car and truck, every improvement, every design change is tested. Prove and test. Test what the scientists, the researchers, the metallurgists, the engineers, the craftsmen have built, and prove their results. They say that this spring is the best alloy, the best design, the best engineered for best performance on any kind of road under any driving condition. That's what the engineers say. But what do the roads say? What do the roughest, toughest roads in the world have to say to men whose lives are devoted to catching a wrong answer? How can Chevrolet's knee action be improved to stay ahead of all other designs, to give smoother, safer riding on hill and curve and rutty road? What about control at high speeds? How much muscle does it take to swing your new car around that sudden hairpin curve? How long does it take to accelerate to 50 miles an hour? How many miles to a gallon now? Here the torture tests go on, from 60 miles an hour to a dead stop. Not once, but many times in a single hour. How long can the brakes take the punishment? Proving ground results are checked against comparison tests made by other Chevrolet engineers and test drivers in actual cross-country runs, thousands of miles on desert and plain, over city streets and mountain highways. And field tests. Special developments are actually put into use for test purposes under the roughest of field conditions with the cooperation of users of large Chevrolet fleets. Improvement in the modern motor car is a process of constant trial and test. No idea is too new, too startling for consideration, yet no idea can pass for final approval until it has undergone every test known to the ingenuity of engineering science. And, of course, it often takes many failures to lead to one success. Yet each failure and each success gives a hint of new paths to follow. Behind each new model Chevrolet for you, Mr. and Mrs. Public, are 1,000 paths of trial and experiment that have led to the final product. With flowing curves for wider, roomier body lines, lower design for better weight distribution and greater safety, new fabrics for luxurious comfort and all the artistry and color combinations, the tones and tints of rich and distinctive pigments, your cars for tomorrow are brought closer and closer to their final form. The search for constant improvement in the car of tomorrow goes on. The greatest research organization in the world works far in the future to give your Chevrolet of tomorrow more of the things you want. Working with scientific tools and instruments unheard of a few years ago, the research scientists and engineers are free to explore the whole fields of physical, chemical, electrical, and mechanical sciences. They are curious about all things: metals, fabrics, fuels, wearing qualities, braking points, combustion efficiencies. In Chevrolet, the search never ends. The search for new designs, for new and better methods of construction, for new engineering features that will give you, Mr. and Mrs. Public, more big car values at lower operating costs.
Well, John, what about the last word motor cars now?
Sure, this is the last word. There's a catch to it. Next year's car will be the last word beyond this. The car after that will be the last word, too. Even though it's right here, today, now. The search for the last word will never end.
We all have reason to cheer in unison with this excited throng. For here is a sign of a healthy America, of a nation of people that can thrill to the exploits of fleetness and sinew and perfect timing. Not alone in the field of sport, but on the field of duty, health is a vital factor. It is the bone and brawn behind the great fleets which guard our ocean. You say the machines do the work, but what is the power that guides them? Healthy American workmen. Yes, health is the backbone of industry, and industry is the sturdy bulwark of our way of life. At play, at duty, at work, a healthy America is a strong America. Yet, some of our leading nutrition authorities tell us that in this nation, 40% of the men, women, and children are improperly fed and undernourished. You ask, is there a practical remedy for this appalling condition? You bet there is. Health and vitality are hidden in the foods we eat. That doesn't sound very much like a secret, does it? But there's a lot more to it than you'd think. Yes, there really is a secret. And to learn that secret, laboratories like this were erected, where men search for the mysterious health-building elements essential to life. Unsung heroes, working with tireless persistence, have discovered the vital influence of vitamins and minerals in our health. These discoveries have a far-reaching effect on our daily lives. Perhaps their importance will be better understood if it is told by one of these men of research, one of this great army of V-men.
Want to know something about vitamins? Well, nearly everyone does. quite properly, too. I think perhaps a simple example may help you to understand them better. There at the dock, a ship is unloading a valuable import. When we speak of imports, we think of import duties. Now, this particular cargo is fish liver oil, tuna liver oil, and halibut liver oil. Here's a sample of each. And the amazing and important fact is that the import duty on these oils is not figured on gallons, but on vitamin content. That means on nutritive value and not on bulk. This very effective comparison should be applied to the food you eat. Its value to your health should not be figured simply by quantity, but by its vitamin and mineral content. Nearly everyone knows there are many varieties of vitamins. There are some we're just beginning to know something about, and others are just being discovered. But as a group, vitamins are essential for complete health, and each one individually is important. Let us take vitamin A first, as it's found in vegetables. I imagine you'd like to see how it looks under a microscope. Medical authorities say that the average person requires about 5,000 international units of vitamin A each day. A lot? Yes, but you could put it all on the head of a pin. Now, the vitamin you have just seen, A, is one of the essentials of good vision. For instance, it guards against the hazards of night driving by reducing glare blindness, and it helps the body guard against colds. Another vitamin is vitamin B1, known as thiamine. Vitamin B1 is essential for properly converting starches and sugar into energy, for normal appetite, proper digestion, and healthy nerves. A great percentage of people are deficient in this vitamin. Another member of the B complex is vitamin B2, known as G and riboflavin. This vitamin is especially important for normal growth, and it helps keep the skin in good condition, particularly around the mouth. And it is also essential for healthy eyes. Vitamin C, ascorbic acid, is essential for the normal health of blood vessels, and it helps keep your teeth and gums sound. Number 5, among the commonly known vitamins, is nicotinic acid, often called the pellagra preventative vitamin, and therefore designated PP. And by the way, it is not related to the nicotine of tobacco. This vitamin is an important factor in keeping the digestion and the nervous system functioning properly. And it also helps maintain normal smoothness of skin. Nature has provided all of these vitamins in a wide variety of foods, common everyday foods that are available to everyone.
Yes, common, everyday foods are the best natural source of vitamins. And men of research, the V-men, are performing a service to mankind by adding daily to the knowledge of this important, vital subject. But eating 3 full meals a day, every day, is no guarantee that you have your full quota of these essential food elements. The vitamin content stored by nature in our foods may never reach the dining room table, because vitamins are easily destroyed and lost. Take Mrs. Smith, for example. She is careful to select proper and balanced foods for her family's dinner. And yet, 12 short feet from the dining room table, she may lose many of the precious vitamins. You wonder how this is possible. Well, there are common practices in the preparation and cooking of food which needlessly destroy these vital ingredients. Continuous high heat, which results in violent boiling, is a practice through which some of the precious vitamins are destroyed. Exposure to air is still another. Mrs. Smith loses vital ingredients by stirring air into the food and by cooking in uncovered pans. Another example is the use of too much water. Excessive cooking water drained off is very rich in vitamins. Actually, there is no reason why Mrs. Smith, or anyone whose job it is to guard the ingredients nature has provided in food, should needlessly lose them. There's a wealth of information on vitamin preservation in the cooking of food being published by recognized authorities on nutrition biochemistry, medicine, by federal agencies, by colleges and universities. These authorities are the men and women of science, ever charting new channels to health.
I think we're ready to discuss the assignment from Westinghouse Electric and Manufacturing Company.
From my preliminary thinking on the subject, I believe we're going to enjoy the work.
Yes, it has an intriguing quality. Testing to determine the vitamin and mineral retention resulting from 2 methods of cooking. Well, we've had a while to think about it. We might go over the subject to see if we're all in accord.
It occurred to me that we could distinguish the 2 methods of cooking by labeling the old-fashioned method destructive cooking.
The modern method might be called protective cooking.
Or vitamized cooking.
That's descriptive enough. Suppose you chart them. The 3 factors common to both methods are water, heat, air. Andrews, how would you differentiate them comparatively?
Water. Large quantities as against little or no water. Heat. Overcooking, violent boiling, versus a fast start with quick cooking, no violent boiling. Air. Open containers, loose-fitting covers, and stirring, as opposed to covered utensils and no stirring.
Is there any point in question?
I believe this covers the problem clearly, Doctor.
Now, some suggestions about the food we'll test.
I'd recommend some of those among the most common usage. Potatoes, carrots.
We should include a green vegetable, preferably peas.
And a stem or leafy one. Any objections to broccoli?
We'll decide on those 4. Potatoes, carrots, peas, broccoli. These are commonly in use in the home and are typical of vegetable classifications.
And so, in the ensuing weeks, in preparing for the tests, Dr. Kimball's assistants cleaned and washed the food, just as it's done at home. Each sample of food used in cooking weighed exactly 1 pound. The common practice in many homes of covering the food with water for cooking was followed. It required 1 1/2 cups in the destructive method. For vitamized cooking, only 1 tablespoon of water was used, or 1/16 of a cup. Both cooking operations were started simultaneously, with the heat turned on full. By the old-fashioned method, using a loose-fitting cover, the peas were boiled until done. It required 24 minutes. In the case of protective cooking, started on high heat and permitted to come to a steam, the operation was completed on a simmer heat. The tight-fitting cover was never removed. The peas were also cooked until done, requiring 20 minutes. After cooking, each pan of peas was drained, and the weight carefully checked and recorded. The same procedure was followed with the other 3 foods. Uniform samples of the raw, uncooked food were analyzed. These gave the total vitamin content before cooking and served as a basis for all comparison of vitamin loss in the 2 cooking methods. All samples were kept in an oxygen-free atmosphere to prevent vitamin loss through contact with air. All vitamin determinations were then conducted by chemical and microbiological procedures. Uniform samples of all foods cooked by the destructive method were studied, weighed, and analyzed with care and precision. The exact amount of vitamins remaining was determined minutely. The same procedure was followed with all uniform samples of vitamized cooking, and the vitamin retention precisely measured. Using as a yardstick the vitamins provided by nature in the raw foods, the percentage of vitamin loss in the destructive method of cooking, and the percentage of vitamin retention in vitamized cooking were scientifically determined. And what were the results of these months of painstaking tests? Remember, they were made with 4 commonly used types of food. Well, facts were revealed which are of tremendous importance in every American home. Suppose we listen as the amazing results are discussed.
Well, our test certainly proved one thing. Vitamin values of cooked food served in the American home depend in a large part on the cooking methods used by the American housewife. Andrews, you recorded the concentrations of the vitamins A and C. What were the final results?
In vitamin A, we found very little difference. 96 1/10% was saved in vitamized or protected cooking, and 94% in destructive cooking. As for vitamin C, vitamized cooking saved 76 4/10%, and only 58 3/10% was saved in improper cooking.
Blake, you recorded concentrations of the vitamins of the B complex tested. How about final results?
They were quite significant. Of B1, 94 4/10% were saved in vitamized cooking and only 58% in destructive cooking. B2 resulted in a saving of 90 4/10% for vitamized cooking and 59 9/10% for the destructive method.
I have the results for retention of the vitamin PP, nicotinic acid. 97 5/10% was retained in vitamized cooking, 61 3/10% in destructive cooking. That gives an average retention for all vitamins tested of 91% in vitamized cooking and an average loss in destructive cooking of 33 7/10%. With regard to minerals, our tests showed from 90% to 97% retention of calcium, phosphorus, and iron in vitamized cooking. Now that our records are completed, we have cause for thought, even beyond those actual records. All this work has been done, of course, that we may discover the most effective way for man to be assured of getting the vitamins and minerals so essential to health. We are fairly safe in assuming that the results we obtained would be representative of all such foods cooked by the two methods we tested. It becomes then a subject of tremendous importance. By one method, there is a virtual blackout of 1/3 of the essential vitamin ingredient. By the other method of cooking, less than 1/10 is lost. Here is a subject vital to a healthy America.
Now, how does all this affect the homemaker in her kitchen? She has no interest in homogenizing, titration, biology, or vitamin assays. She has a family to feed, and her problem is to keep that family healthy. We'll take Mrs. Smith again as an example. She has learned something from the work done by the great army of V-men. Mrs. Smith doesn't have to learn to cook all over again. Vitamized cooking is easily done. She needs only to follow 4 simple rules. First, cook vegetables in little or no water so that health-giving vitamins and minerals are not boiled out and poured down the sink. Secondly, start fast and cook quickly. The intense high heat brings vegetables to the steaming point quickly. Their precious ingredients are not exposed to heat, water, and air any longer than necessary. Next, be sure heat is evenly distributed and accurately controlled. It keeps vegetables cooking gently, avoids violent boiling, which destroys vitamins. And lastly, cook in covered utensils without stirring to keep out vitamin-destroying air. These are the 4 simple rules of vitamized cooking. It will protect the vital, elusive ingredients in our daily food. It will help assure the American family, your family, the essential elements nature intended them to have. For it is not the bulk alone of what we eat that measures its health-giving values, but that small yet important group of vitamins and minerals. At play, at work, at duty, all America can be healthier if they will safeguard the benefits of natural foods, and an important way is by vitamized cooking. So profit by the research of that great army of V-men. Yes, a healthy America is a strong America.
Buffing is essential in producing high-quality products. The investment is considerable in terms of labor, compound, buffs, and equipment. Ways to slash these costs rank high on management's list. Hand buffing, the oldest and most basic method, is grossly inefficient in today's mass production markets. The buffer has to stop and apply compound manually. Excessive buff wear results from feast or famine compound conditions on the buff. Unusable nubbins have to be collected, stored, and shipped back to the supplier. Pace and quality in hand operations vary, and fatigue and boredom result in reduced production rates. Semi-automatic fixtures help, but there's still a lot of handwork. Parts still have to be loaded and unloaded by hand, and the buffer periodically applies compound manually. Automatic bar compound applications reduce hand operations. But even they require frequent downtime adjustments, have to be loaded by hand, and they too produce wasteful nubbins. The development of liquid compounds and application equipment was a major breakthrough. Timers and multi-gun setups made automatic continuous line buffing possible, providing high production rates and consistent quality. Conventional liquid buffing systems adapted from the paint spraying field use nozzles with air atomizing caps to propel the compound via low pressure air. But this brought problems. A typical buff creates an air mass which travels at 42 miles per hour, 1/4 inch from the buff surface. With low pressure systems, only about 70% of the atomized compound penetrates this air barrier and reaches the buff ends. The other 30% pollutes the atmosphere, creating expensive cleanup problems. Fallout settling on the conveyor system shortens its working life and contributes to equipment breakdowns. Poor cutting heads from inefficient compound application, typical of low pressure atomizing systems, accelerate buff wear as shown on right. Downtime, replacing buffs and excessive buff consumption add greatly to overall costs. The Airless spray buffing system for non-ferrous metals, developed by M&T Chemicals, has been called the greatest buffing advance in over 60 years. It increases buff life up to 30%, reduces compound consumption 10 to 20%, and virtually eliminates fogging waste. M&T developed special putty-like liquimatic Tripoli compounds that have 10 times the viscosity of compounds used with low-pressure atomizing equipment. M&T plants at Grand Rapids, Michigan, Pico Rivera, California, and Matawan, New Jersey manufacture the high-performance liquimatic compounds to exact specifications. Each production lot is analyzed and tested by the M&T Quality Control Department before compound is shipped to customer plants. The M&T system includes high-pressure pumping and spraying equipment that produces pressures up to 3,000 psi. No atomizing air is used, so expensive compressed air needs are cut. High pressure shoots the liquimatic compound through the air barrier so it penetrates into the buff. The time between shots can be increased, reducing total amount of compound consumed. Note the penetrating power of low pressure atomizing and the M&T Airless systems. Compound ejected at typical atomizing pressures doesn't even dent the cardboard panel. The liquimatic compound fired from a nozzle of the M&T Airless system cuts through the panel like a knife, completing its regular pattern on the paper below. This sequence shows the ability of the M&T Airless system to shoot compound through the air barrier around the buff. The typical compound shot, slowed by a special camera, takes only 0.06 of a second. Liquimatic compound strikes the buff without overspray and excessive spin-off. Penetration of compound into the buff creates a reservoir that reduces buff wear and minimizes cleaning and plating problems. Now let's look at ordinary liquid compound fired into the same buff from a low-pressure atomizing system. A high percentage of compound fails to penetrate the air barrier and is wastefully spun off to settle on floors and equipment. Elliptical nozzle openings, unique in the M&T system, eject liquimatic compound in fan-shaped spray patterns from 20 degrees to 80 degrees. A single nozzle gives accurate and efficient coverage of buffs from 1 to 36 inches wide. This 36-inch buff is covered with one airless high-pressure gun, eliminating a gun mover or multi-gun setup. Also, the M&T Easy Clean nozzle brings instant relief to clogged guns. Just rotate the nozzle, squirt to clean, and return it to its regular position. Cost and performance analyses of existing installations show that the M&T Airless system can frequently be amortized in 1 year or less. One user claimed that his M&T Airless system paid for itself in 3 months of operation. In summary, the M&T Airless spray buffing system can increase buff life up to 30%, reduce compound consumption 10 to 20%, save on housekeeping and cleanup costs, minimize pre-plate cleaning problems, slash compound overspray loss, pay for itself in short time. As you can see, in buffing 2, you go first class when you go with M&T.